Let's talk about the distance formula and how that relates to circles. So for the distance formula, let's say you have 2 points. Call them, let's say x1, y1, and another point, call it x2, y2. Then we say that the distance between those two is the square root of x2 minus x1 quantity squared plus y2 minus y1 quantity squared. The reason for that is, let's say, here was the point x1, y1, and then over here was, say, the other point x2, y2. I want the distance between them, which is this length right here. Let's pretend I can draw straight. That's a little better. And the idea is you could use a right triangle to figure out what that distance is. So Pythagorean theorem says a squared plus b squared will give you c squared. Well, this distance right here is a difference in your x value. So that's an x2 minus x1 is that length. And up here, this is a difference in y values. This whole distance from here to here is what we call y2, and this distance from here to here is y1. So we're going to have y2 minus y1 is there, which tells me in the end x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared gives me my distance squared. So this is that a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. If I take a square root of both sides, that gives me in the end what the distance formula is. So let's do an example. Let's find the distance between the 2 points. Let's go with our first point is negative 3 comma 1. And my second point is going to be 2, negative 4. Now it doesn't matter which one you call x2, y2, and which one you call x1, y1. So let's just say this first one is what I'm going to call x1, y1, and the second one is what I'm going to call x2, y2. That means the distance between them two is going to be the square root of x2, I called 2, minus x1, careful it's a negative, so we'll have minus a negative, squared, plus y2 is what I call negative 4, minus y1, which is 1, quantity squared. We'll do the subtractions first, so I get 2 minus a negative 3, so that becomes 5. And a negative 4 minus 1 is a minus 5. 5 squared is 25. Negative 5 squared is also 25. So I'm going to get the square root of 50. So the distance between those 2 points is the square root of 50. How this relates to circles is you can think of a circle, there's a center. I'm going to call that point H comma K. And every point that lives on the circle is a fixed distance, which is what we call the radius r away. So every single point on the circle, say over here, is an x comma y. The distance between those 2 points, x comma y and h comma k, is r. Well, our distance formula says that the distance, which is the radius of the circle, is equal to the square root of the difference in the x values, so x minus h, quantity squared, plus difference in the y values, which is y minus k, comma, squared. And if you just square both sides of that equation, you get r squared is equal to x minus h squared plus y minus k squared, where again, r is the radius of the circle, and our h comma k is the center of the circle. So this is an equation right here. R squared equals x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is an equation for a circle. So for example, we know on to EX example, find an equation for a circle whose center is let's go with, how about 1 comma negative 2, and let's say it has radius 4. Well, the center is 1 comma negative 2, so this is my h comma k, and my radius is 4, so my radius r is 4. Well, I have r squared, so I'm going to have 4 squared is equal to x minus my h, which is 1, squared, plus y minus a negative 2 squared. And if we clean that up just a little bit, that means 16 is equal to x minus 1 squared plus y plus 2 squared is the equation for the circle, whose center is 1, negative 2, and radius 4. You could do an example the other direction too. Let's say you're given a circle who has, how about x plus 5 quantity squared plus a y minus 3 squared is equal to, how about 81? The center of that circle is h comma k, and it's always x minus h. So this is the same as x minus a negative 5 squared. So that tells me that my h is equal to negative 5, and that y minus k tells me my k is equal to 3. So negative 5 comma 3 is the center of that circle, and my 81 is my r squared, which tells me my r is equal to 9.